Lake Okeechobee beckons as the world's top anglers fine-tune their game for the first stop on the FLW Tour. Total purse, $500,000. Total focus, mandatory. Hank Parker fishes with 3 top contenders as the countdown to Lake Okeechobee begins on FLW Outdoors.
Yes, sir, that's what we're looking for, my friend. Ball game, baby. Yeah. He could have one more in. He does. We have a champion. That fish broke my line the other day. I got him. Hallelujah!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another season of FLW Outdoors. I'm Carlton Wing, along with Taylor Carr. We're joining you from beautiful Lake Okeechobee, Florida. Our first stop on the FLW Tour, like it is every year. And Taylor, we're looking forward to a great season.
And the money is even bigger this year. $6.8 million in total purses. That's over $1 million more than it was last year. This event is $500,000. The winner takes home $100,000.
This is going to be a great show and a great way to kick off the season. We're going to take you into the home of Land O'Lakes Angler of the Year, Dan Moorhead. And then we're going to take Dan out on the water.
We'll also meet Pat Fisher, who won here last year. He went to the north end of the lake and flipped mats and won his first ever FLW tournament.
And then at the end of the show, Hank Parker will join us for our bold and fearless predictions as to who we think will win this event. And we hope to improve on last year's record, which should be pretty easy.
And of course, Hank Parker on the water now with 3 of this year's top contenders.
Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, today we're going to be fishing with J.T. Kenny, the 2002 Okeechobee champion. We're going to be fishing with Dan Moorhead, the 2003 FLW Angler of the Year. And we're going to be fishing with Mike Sermon, who won the very first FLW Tour Championship tournament on Lake Okeechobee. It's going to be great. Back to you guys, Carlton, Taylor.
Well, Hank gets J.T. Kenny to really come out of his shell. It's pretty funny. And also, Mike Sermon explains why lake fish are important to what he's trying to do here.
And coming up a little bit later in the show, Scott Martin becomes our permanent professor for our Fishing 101 segment. He'll break down the finer points of bass angling all year long. And in this week's installment, he'll talk about one of the most versatile lures on the water, the spinnerbait.
You know, last year was a big year on the FLW Tour. Lots of close finishes, lots of great excitement. Let's take a look back now. Here's 2003 from the FLW Tour.
We have our new leader. Another monster keeper pound, 3 ounce, and he still has what a slugfest out there today.
The 2003 started in perfect Lake Okeechobee style. A 9-pound, 14-ounce bass from Mike Sermon, part of a 27.6 limit that was the 4th biggest in FLW history. The next day, Andy Morgan weighed a bruiser that went 9.15 and turned out to be the biggest fish caught all year. Anglers will never forget how windy Okeechobee got on day 3 and how Pat Fisher adjusted by fishing the north end of the lake and flipping to floating mats of vegetation.
Ball game, baby. Yeah.
Fisher claimed his first FLW title with Rick Couch second and Dan Moorhead third. Tour stop 2 was new water for the FLW, the vast tidal expanse of Louisiana's Atchafalaya Basin. Rookie Dave Lefebvre had the fish figured out early, flipping a tube on light line and knocking down 31.5 pounds in 2 days. But veteran Paul Elias did something entirely different in the finals, a spinnerbait and buzzbait in a real out-of-the-way location.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, Lord. Valentine. Mwah.
Elias had more than 17 pounds on the final day and claimed his first FLW win. West Virginia's Bill Chapman was second, and Lefebvre ended up third. The next tour stop took the FLW Tour back to South Carolina's Lake Murray for the first time in 3 years. The water was way down, but the fishing was incredible. 85 pros bagged first-day limits, and Castrol pro Darrell Robertson had a tour record 49.5 pounds through 2 days. In the finals, Larry Nixon started with a 7-pounder and went on to lead after day 3 with almost 18 pounds.
I want you to get him as soon as I get him in there. Get him! Good girl! What a start! Man!
But on the last day, and with a steady rain falling, rookie Chris Elliott from Gloucester, North Carolina, landed 3 big keepers and claimed his first tour win. Stanley Mitchell was second, and John Cruz third. At the Walmart Open on Beaver Lake, cold weather was in and sight fishing was out. And another rookie led after qualifying. It was Tennessee's Russ Moran. In the final round, Dan Moorhead put on a crankbait clinic, landing 16 keepers for a limit that weighed almost 14 pounds. And Moorhead kept it up on Saturday, winning by almost 9 pounds and expanding his lead in the Land O'Lakes Angler of the Year race. Randall Hudson was second for the second straight year, and Moran ended up third. The tour went back to Kentucky Barkley Lakes for stop 5 and found the water way up in the trees. Many anglers thought the fish would be there too, but it turned out the best bite was in deeper water. That's where second-year pro Steve Kennedy found his fish using a Carolina rigged Senko and a crankbait.
That's the kind we like to call with.
Evan Root pro Davey Height was right behind, and he had an awesome Carolina rig bite going on the outside of submerged brush. But Kennedy added over 21 pounds the last day and cruised to an easy win, his first in the FLW. Height was second, and Tom Mansour took third. At the big money Forest Wood Open, Angler of the Year leader Dan Moorhead caught 2 limits, and while he missed the finals, he locked up his first season title. Tommy Biffle had over 38 pounds the first 2 days, but he lost his touch on day 3. He was passed by local favorite Timmy Horton. Horton caught his fish again on the last day, but so did California's Aaron Martins. Martins hooked his 3 best fish on consecutive casts, and in dramatic fashion won his first FLW title when Horton's limit fell 11 ounces short. Land O'Lakes pro Keith Williams was third. The top 48 FLW pros advanced to the richest championship in fishing history. $500,000 for first place and a guaranteed payday for everyone. The high water of Virginia's James River was the venue, and opening round head-to-head matchups provided some early upsets, including top seed Dan Moorhead, knocked off by 48 seed Alvin Shaw, and Rick Clunn, beaten by local favorite John Cruz. In the finals, Castrol pro David Dudley fished a spinnerbait on grass flats near the mouth of the Appomattox River. With a limit that only weighed 9 pounds 7 ounces, Dudley won the championship and the record $500,000 payday. Harmon Davis was second by only 3 ounces, and Rob Kilby was third. Here's this week's Ozark Trail Trivia. Lake Okeechobee is the second largest freshwater lake in the United States. What is the largest? Is it Lake Champlain, Lake Erie, Lake Michigan, or the California Delta? The answer coming up next on FLW Outdoors. Here's your Ozark Trail Trivia answer. The largest freshwater lake in the U.S. is C, Lake Michigan, at over 22,000 square miles.
Lake Okeechobee. Lake Okeechobee.
This is Lake Okeechobee. It's one of the best big bass fisheries in the world, and it's completely unique. It's a shallow, natural lake, and it is huge, over 500,000 acres. Plus, it's filled with big bass. Once again, the tournament's going out of Roland and Marianne Martin's Marina in Clewiston on the southwest side of the lake. Now from there, the anglers can spread out. It's about 25 miles to the north end, 10 to 15 miles to the south end of Okeechobee. Now, Lake Okeechobee is always changing, and how it changes usually depends on 3 things: water level, water clarity, and the amount of grass on the lake. And there is grass everywhere on Okeechobee, like hydrilla, which bass really like when it's cold. Floating mats of vegetation are also a prime location, especially in cold weather, because they hold heat and the bass like to hide under them. We found that out last year. Eelgrass. Bass love to spawn in the holes in eelgrass. And the lake also has cattails and sawgrass like this, which is great for holding pre-spawn fish. Very few anglers know Okeechobee as well as BF Goodrich pro Scott Martin from Clewiston. He's the son of Roland Martin, and he fishes this lake about 150 days a year. so he's got excellent insight into where and how anglers will fish Okeechobee.
One of the most productive areas on the lake is the south end of the lake, especially between Kramer Island and Red Island, an area called South Bay. This area is real diverse. It has cattails, bulrushes, hydrilla, hyacinths, and even eelgrass. The fish stay down here year-round. And one of the best lures to use on this end of the lake, especially in cold weather, is going to be a heavy jig like this. This is an ounce jig that comes through the grass real nice. I'm going to flip this in the hyacinth mats and concentrate on the fish that are pre-spawn. The other area of the lake, working your way up the west side, up around the Clewiston area, is the rim canal. I believe the rim canal this year could be a sleeper. With the low water we had 4 years ago, there's a lot of new vegetation in the rim canal, hydrilla and hyacinths, and it's going to be a great area to throw crankbaits. Once you work your way up here, you've got this whole 30,000 acres of marsh called Moonshine Bay, Observation Island. That's a great area. It always stays clear, the water is always nice in there, and spinnerbaits are a good choice in that area. It's one of my favorite lures to throw there. Cover a lot of water and you'll catch a lot of fish. Working your way up here is a very popular area. As a matter of fact, this is an area where 3 or 4 years ago, Joel Richardson won a tournament in warm weather in the eelgrass, pitching worms. A 7-inch worm like I have here, especially in a black graper June bug, is a winner on Lake Okeechobee. Another good choice for this area is a lipless crankbait like I have here. This is a good bait to cover the outside grass lines and to cover the fish that are feeding on shad that time of year, especially when the water's warm or even when it's cold. When you get up towards the north end of the lake, it's a really good area to flip. It was very popular last year. Matter of fact, Pat Fisher won the tournament in this area. And what he was doing was flipping a 3-inch crawdad with a 1-ounce lead weight, punching it through the hyacinth mats. This is a really good way to do it when the weather gets cold. When you get over to this side of the lake, which is the northeast side, it's called the J&S area. This area is real popular for sight fishing. The water usually stays pretty clean and the bottom's always hard. A little small worm like this pitched into a bed usually will drive the big females crazy. And that's my choice there. When you leave J&S, the whole east side of the lake here is not a very popular area to fish, but there is a lot of rocks to fish, and if the water's clear that time of year, a crankbait or a rattle trap is a good choice. The key to winning the tournament this year is going to be paying attention to a few important things: the water temperature, the water color, and especially the type of grass you're fishing. With Lake Okeechobee always changing, especially around a cold front, paying attention to the conditions around you is going to be the key to success.
Lots of options on Okeechobee, and of course the weather is always a determining factor. A look now at what the anglers can expect in our banana boat outdoor conditions. Mostly clear skies and moderate winds, about 50 degrees in the morning, warming into the 60s and 70s by afternoon. Cooler on Saturday. UV index ranges from 1 to 3. 2 years ago, young J.T. Kenny burst on the fishing scene by winning the first FLW he ever fished here on Okeechobee. J.T. Kenny's now with our Hank Parker.
Hey, thanks, Taylor. Hey, today we're fishing with J.T. Kenny, the guy that put this thing all together in 2002 and won the tournament. Today he's going to go out on Lake Okeechobee and show how he's going to put it together for 2004. All right, J.T.
Fishing world has not seen J.T. Kenny yet. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing your 2004 Lake Okeechobee champion. He's the flippin' Fandango. He hails from Frostburg, Maryland, J.T. Kenny.
They told me you were really laid back. It'd be hard to get you to talk.
What I figured.
You're very camera shy. There you go. He caught one.
That's a baby. That one's eyes are a little too close to his tail. Is it okay if I go home and actually tell people that you said you were my buddy?
Yep, I will be all right.
I think I like this sport. All you do is ride around out there and you catch a couple fish and you bring them in, hand them to them.
And give you his money.
Yeah, give you money. There you go.
They caught me a fish. JT, tell me about your first win, 2002. That was a pretty awesome deal there, and that was just starting out. Was that your first year?
That was my very first big tour event.
Oh, very first tournament, period. Talk to me about that now.
It was unbelievable how calm I was. I mean, I had 50 spectator boats on me and helicopters everywhere. and every pitch was perfect. It was like I ate it up, I guess. I love that stuff. As soon as we got in there the third morning, my co-angler, he bowed up on one, and you could tell it was a mule, you know? And right as I was getting ready to go, whack, I caught one about 5. I said, okay, that'll work. Let me turn around and make another pass through here. One big fish on Lake Okeechobee doesn't mean anything. It just means you got lucky and caught one. 2 big fish on Lake Okeechobee, I think, means the world. It means there could be 1,000 big fish right there. The biggest thing I can tell people about this place to watch for, everybody will hear it and then I'll have a heck of a lot harder time finding fishing holes. You know, 99.9% of the time the wind blows out of the north. The biggest thing that screws up the fishing on this lake is muddy water. These Florida strain fish, for some reason, just don't like muddy water. So when the north wind blows, any place you're fishing that's on a southern bank is going to get muddied up. So I try not even to fish any places that would get muddied up by a north wind.
You've told me repeatedly that you don't feel good about what you've already established, and you've told me you're a few pounds short of what you think it'll take to make the cut, but yet you keep flipping the mat and that's all you're going to do. So are you completely convinced that that's all you need to do to establish the big fish?
No, I'm sure there's a good spawning pattern out there, but it's a technique that I have a lot of confidence in.
He said, ladies and gentlemen, your 2004 Lake Okeechobee champion, hailing from Frostburg, Maryland, the flippin' fool, 2-time Okeechobee champion, J.T. Kinney. Something like that.
God, that sounds good when a big-time super tight pro bass and Hank Parker guy just, oh, I'm pumped up. I got a feeling, is that going to be on some kind of blunders tape or something?
I think this whole interview is going to end up on a blunder tape of some kind.
Hi, I'm Scott Martin. Coming up, I'm going to show you how to have a lot of fun with a spinnerbait on a cloudy day.
FLW Outdoors is brought to you by Walmart. Always low prices, always. By Everstart Batteries, more power for your money. By 7-Up, make 7-Up yours. And by Pedigree, healthy, happy dog for life.
Jimmy Luter, you can come on up. He's weighed in his limit. Jimmy Luter's weighed in his limit. That weighed a total of 20 pounds, 4 ounces. JT has these 4.9 to win. 4.9 to win. This is going to be so close.
All right, let's stick it in the bucket and see what we got.
This fish weighs 6 pounds, 1 ounce. We have a champion.
J.T. Kinney, your champion. What a great day that was for J.T. Kinney, who is always a force on this waterway. Well, the Everstart Eastern Division has already gotten underway 2 weeks ago right here at Lake Okeechobee. Justin Schweier of Okeechobee, Florida, won the event with a final round weight of 26 pounds, 2 ounces. J.T. also in that final round, as well as Anthony Gagliardi.
And the BFL series is about to start. BFL stands for Bass Fishing League, and those are events held around the country for weekend anglers. There are 24 divisions all around the U.S. For more information on the BFLs, go to your source for all fishing information, FLWOutdoors.com, and click on the BFL logo at the top of the page.
All right, class is now in session. Hope you brought your number 2 pencils. Scott Martin is our professor for Fishing 101, and this week's lesson is on the spinnerbait.
Hi, I'm Scott Martin. Today we're fishing a river system. The water temperature's in the mid-60s, and I'm going to show you what to do with the spinnerbait in these creeks. When you have a deep side and a shallow side, we're going to concentrate on the shallow side where the bass are pushing the shad up and feeding. The main reason I concentrate on the shallow side of a little creek like this is on a cloudy day when these fish are pushing bait. Bass are very aggressive and they like to push the shad all the way to the bank, and when you have a gradual slope like we have here, it gives the bass a lot of room to push this bait all the way up against this grass like this. Where we're sitting, it's only 3 feet deep, but on the other side of the creek, it's a lot deeper, 6 and 7 foot deep. So that bank would be better on a sunny day. But today's cloudy, and we're just going to stick with the shallow stuff. fishing around an area that has a lot of bait is try to downsize your spinnerbait enough to match the bait that's in the area. I wouldn't want to throw a big spinnerbait in this situation because the bait that I'm seeing flipping on the surface is all very small. When you're fishing down a shallow bank like this, I like to key on the farthest bit of structure that sticks out onto the flat. Those fish usually will position themselves right on the point. A cast like that is a good cast to get bit on. There's one. All right. Not a real big one, but again, little spinnerbait on these shallow banks. Look for bait flipping on the surface like we've done today and just cover a lot of water. And these little bass like this are up here feeding, and every once in a while you'll catch a big one. Just remember, fish the spinnerbait. Move the rod around a little bit, change the speed of the reel. You'll have a good day of fishing.
All right, pencils down, everybody. Class is over. Scott Martin, however, will be back. His next lesson will be on the Carolina rig.
Let's go back to Hank Parker now as he fishes with an angler who probably knows Lake Okeechobee as well as anybody in this tournament.
Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, we're fishing today with the man that won the very first FLW tournament in history right here on this lake, Mike Sermon. Mike, you going to show us how to catch him again?
I'm going to try. We'll see what happens.
All right, let's go catch him. Is this a lake that it takes that kind of presence, that much fishing to really be on top of it? Does it change that much?
It is a lake that's different than a lot of other places. I mean, it's not about a spot. It really helps to know where the fish are now, but also where they're coming to.
That is really interesting. Now, last year, you were on a pile of big fish. The wind blew you off your spot, and you tried to stick in there even against your own advice, knowing that when that siltation moves in, you can't get them to bite. You tried it anyway, but you were on a ton of big fish, and is that what it was? Was that fish that just moved in off the lake?
That's exactly what it was. It was a big school of lake fish that had moved in.
Now, what do you call them, lake fish?
Well, and it's really weird, and if you listen to the locals, everybody knows what a lake fish is, but what we call lake fish, Hank, is their bellies are real white, and what that is, that's a group of lake fish that have moved into that area. And they're a lot easier to catch too because they've just moved in off the lake and they haven't seen a lure. So they're easier to catch and they're really aggressive.
Yeah, little guy. You really got a system down. I noticed last year almost everybody was flipping dead mats and matted mats and using heavy tungsten. Is that what you're using,
yep.
Tungsten?
I'm using tungsten. All I'm using right now is a 1 ounce tungsten screw-in weight. And last year, every fish I caught was with a screw-in, and I use the big CRAWDAD. If I can get bit with the big one, I'll stick with the big one religiously. If I can't, it gets tough, I'll go down to this little bitty 3-inch that we call a cricket. There's another one. Little guy, but he's a bass.
Who do you think is going to be the tough one to beat? You know anybody else that's got a lot of going on, a lot of big fish going on?
JT's going to be hard to beat. He's not a Florida boy, but he lives here probably and fishes the lake more than I do. So, I mean, he knows the lake well, and I think he's going to be tough to beat. There's a bite.
That might be better there now.
Oh.
That is better. Hold on to him. Don't let him get on.
Uh-oh, I feel a hook sliding up.
No fish?
No fish. That was a grown one.
Yeah, we wanted to see him. Mike, I tell you got some pretty water, and you're not short on experience. If you just don't have that 100-mile-an-hour wind like you had last year, maybe yours.
You know, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. If I can get a good bite and then don't screw up like I did on that one right there, I have a chance.
Well, you're going to lose a few. You can't catch them all, so that's good. If you're going to lose them in practice.
I guess today's a good day. That's
right. Hey, coming up next, we got last year's winner, Pat Fisher.
Welcome back to Clewiston, Florida, as we preview the Lake Okeechobee event, the first stop in the FLW Tour this year, $6.8 million in total purses.
You know, last year Pat Fisher won this event under some brutally cold conditions. Let's take a look at his winning round from 2003.
Ball game, baby. Yeah.
From Stone Mountain, Georgia, Pat Fisher. Your champion right here on Lake Okeechobee. Pat Fisher, $100,000 richer.
Pat Fisher's day began with a 3-pounder, but he had to throw it back because he'd lost track of his camera boat, which also serves as a monitor. Needless to say, on a day when only 2 other anglers would reach the 10-pound mark, putting any keeper back in the water was tough to do. At 9:30, Fisher had his first bite, but after a short struggle, the fish threw itself back, and Pat's live well was still empty. It would be another long hour before the Snickers Pro began a roll of epic proportions.
3-pounder, good start.
And it was only the beginning. Fisher is using a Blue Gambler Craw given to him by fellow Georgian Mickey Bruce. The Craw has a rattle, and so does the weight. Once through the mat, Fisher twitches the lure up and down several times in the same place, letting the rattles do their job. The noisy presentation is music, both to the bass and Fisher, whose live well is about to need an extension. Fisher illustrates just how physical landing a fish can be. He's using 50-pound test spider wire because he needs the fish on top of the mats quickly. This is a real tug of war made possible because of the braided line.
6-pounder. That's my kicker.
At 11:15, with just 3 fish, Pat's total weight is near the 13-pound mark, which would make it the largest sack of day 3 or day 4. But Pat's day is not anywhere close to being complete. Just 10 minutes later,
ball game, baby. Yeah. I'm shaking now. You believe I've never fished this water right here? Started to go the other way this morning. I said, no, let me work back this way. You have the deeper water out here. The fish, females are moving in to spawn back in this area back here. And they're just staging, they're just sitting there. There'll be another one sitting in this clump.
That clump held another keeper and his 5th fish of the day. He didn't need to, but Pat went looking for big bites to cull with for the rest of the day.
Conservative side, I think I have about 17 pounds right now. We'll go ahead and bust a 25-pound sack today. That would be sweet.
Let's take a closer look at Pat's technique. Here's his big fish of the day. Now watch Fisher's rod tip after the flip. He bounces the lure, allowing the action of the craw and the sound of the rattles to work their magic. When a fish is on, the rod tip gets heavy, and now it's showtime. Fisher said it was difficult to feel the initial bite, but it did happen. Here's another keeper. Notice the end of the rod tip on this one. No need to lift it to feel heavy. Just watch the line as the fish caught the lure on the downfall. The weigh-in provided profitable proof that Fisher was on fish and on target all day long.
We have a champion.
He's our champion.
Fisher is our champion, still with fished away.
Following the tournament, Pat told our Larry Nixon which mats to key in on.
I watched this footage, and he's spending a lot of time sitting there yo-yoing that bait up and down in one spot. Was there something specific you was trying to do there?
I was trying to call the bass over. If you had a mat with a 10-foot mat, I knew the fish were under them staging, sitting there trying to get warm, and I just sat there and the rattle. I had confidence in the rattle, just pouring it up and down. I would leave it in there for sometimes a minute in one hole. I keyed on the center of the mats and the color of the mats. I had more the color. I had more bites out of the dead mats.
The dead hyacinth.
Dead hyacinth mats, yeah, because of the sunlight absorbing all the heat. The cold front, the Florida bass, they just shut down. And they get the warmth, they sit up under the mats.
And you did a fabulous job, and there you're landing another good fish. And watch these fish just bury up in that junk.
They don't like to come out.
That's why you got to have 50-pound test line and just hang on and try to go to them the best you can. Actually, that's an awful good fish you got right there.
That was my 6-pounder.
Made your day, didn't it?
Coming up on FLW Outdoors, we're going to take you up to Paducah, Kentucky, the home of Land O'Lakes Angler of the Year, Dan Moorhead.
And then Dan goes fishing with Hank Parker. And you'll see that Moorhead's doing something different this year on Lake Okeechobee.
You could be, time we finish tomorrow afternoon, leading for Angler of the Year.
No, I will be.
Whole new year this year. You had a phenomenal year last year. And it really started here, didn't it?
It did. It really did.
You finished third.
It was a dream year.
You took over the point lead after the third tournament last year and never looked back. Hey, it's good to be back in the boat with you. You know, we're good buddies, but we're fraternity brothers with Mans Baits, and Mans has come on board this year with FLW, so it's going to be good for you.
I'm telling you, well, we've been associated for a long time, and I'm glad to have them on the tournament trail. I think it's going to be a good deal. Oh, I heard one.
A fish.
I got him. Florida bass, and a keeper at that.
A good Florida bass, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, they ragged on me so bad last year, that video. I got hold true.
You got to kiss them. Well, hey, let me tell you, as good as those fish were to you last year, I wouldn't mind kissing them. That's not a bad deal.
I've tried flipping hydrilla. I've tried flipping live mats, dead mats, hyacinth. I've tried it all.
Now, last year for you, were it strictly fishing dead mats? Was that the deal, or did you catch them out of?
Well, I caught them out of everything. I did catch some fish out of dead mats that most times you don't anticipate. What was kind of weird is you'd be fishing a big, pretty green live mat, and there might be one little corner or one little part that'd be dead, and that's what I was keying on.
You won Angler of the Year last year, and you really started it all right here, and you got all that momentum going with a great finish here. How important is that for you this year? What happens if you do bad at this tournament, and what are you going to do with the conditions like they are? It's so scattered, it's so different from what you did last year. What's the whole game plan, and what do you need to do to come out of this thing mentally as strong as you did last year?
Well, I believe to come out mentally strong, I mean, I think no matter what happens, I'm going to remain mentally strong, because once you've achieved that Angler of the Year, I mean, it changes your mentality. I mean, the way you fish, the way you attack things. But I'm mentally strong for this tournament. I don't like the word struggle. I'm not struggling, but I'm just still challenged on catching the big fish. But we still got 2 days practice, and I'm going to put the trolling motor down and fish like it's the last day of my life.
It's so hard with this little spinner bug to come through this without having grass all over it, and the fish comes up there to eat it, and then there's a big grass wad on your bug. You don't want it.
Well, see, they're like me. They don't like salad.
Hey, don't go away. We're going to be right back with Taylor and Carlton with our predictions on Lake Okeechobee coming up next.
Welcome back to FLW Outdoors as we wrap up the first show of the 2004 season. And guys, let's take a look at that schedule. Of course, we're right here at Lake Okeechobee for event number 1. Then it's off to Louisiana's Atchafalaya Basin.
You think Okeechobee's big? Wait till these guys get to the Atchafalaya.
It can fish as big as you want it to be, well over 500,000 acres. Hank, event 3 is Old Hickory in Tennessee, and then Beaver Lake and the Walmart Open.
Yeah, the Walmart Open. Danny Moorhead's looking forward to getting back there. He picked up $200,000 there last year.
And Dan Moorhead will like event number 5 on his home water, Kentucky Lake, and then we wrap up the season at Lake Champlain in upstate New York, everybody's favorite waterway.
Mine as well. It's a lot of big smallmouth and a lot of good largemouth. That's going to be an exciting tournament.
And the championship, Logan Martin in Alabama, and on Logan Martin, $500,000 to the winner. That's huge money.
That is, and that lake fish is really tough, so that's going to be exciting to watch how these guys figure that one out.
All right, let's get back to our stop right here at Lake Okeechobee. Hank, you had an opportunity to fish with 3 contenders. What did they teach you?
You know, it's always amazing to me. These guys sandbag so bad. We go out there and nobody's catching any big fish, but when the tournament starts, they always catch them. So I don't think they're showing us their whole card, but what I saw is the bite is on. There's just not big fish being caught.
Which of those three guys you think has something figured out?
I think Mike Sermon. He, you know, he had it going big time last year, and the wind blew and kind of took him out of contention. The water got silted up, and he wasn't able to catch the fish. This year, I think he's preparing for that. He's got clear water found in all different locations, so no matter which direction the wind blows, he's going to have some water to fish.
All right, it's time to put your money where your mouth is, though. It's time for our fearless predictions for the Okeechobee tournament. One winner out of 200 entries. Hank, your pick.
Well, again, this is like trying to pick a winning lottery ticket. There's 200 guys here that can win this event, but Scott Martin finished 11th last year. He's just barely out of the top 10. I think he's the guy. He's got blood in his eyes, and this is kind of his home water.
Any of the three guys we met today would be good choices. There's an up-and-comer who's done well. He hadn't won yet, but he's improved here every year. He was 12th last year. Watch for Louisiana's Greg Hackney in this event.
I'm playing it conservative and safe. I'm going with Clark Wendlandt, a guy who can make the top 10 whether it's a sight fishing festival or not here on Lake Okeechobee. He's proven it time and again. Probably the safest bet all year. Clark Wendlandt's my man. Well, we'll see how we did, and you will as well next week when we crown a winner in the $500,000 first event of the FLW Tour. Thanks for watching this week on FLW Outdoors.
Hey, coming up next is Dan Moorhead, our 2003 Land O'Lakes Angler of the Year.
I can't believe they called me a psycho! Oh, wait a minute.
He's a single man that's been on the road for quite a while.